Welcome to F1 on the Rocks. Sit back and pour up your favorite drink. Hey, we're not the ones behind the wheel.
Hello and welcome back to F1 on the Rocks. I am Brian Dower here with my co-host Will Smith.
What up?
What is up, Will? Today we're reviewing the thrilling USGP, one of the best races of the season, if I do say so myself, as an American. And Red Bull wraps up the Constructors' Championship in surprisingly dramatic fashion. It wasn't dramatic like they weren't going to do it, but it was dramatic how it all went down with the slow pit stop and overtaking Hamilton. But before we get into all of that, let's catch up, my man. It's been weeks.
Yeah, dude, it's been crazy. For all the listeners that have stayed tried and true with us since the beginning, we took a little bit of a break last week, which was nice. It is always our pleasure to present you with our take on what's happening in the F1 world, but it does take some time. So thanks for your patience and for letting us have that little bit of week. It's been good, man. We did a lot of traveling. Went to Boise, played some golf in Sun Valley with a guy who is basically like a local legend.
Nice.
We pulled up to the tee box and there's just a solo guy like in his 70s. You know, he's definitely been living there for a long time, like gray haired ponytail, like down to his like ass. And I'm sitting there for a second and I'm like, you know, they probably like a nicer golf course on Valley Resort. They probably wouldn't have sent us out like just behind him. So go back to the tee box and I'm like, hey, there's a guy at the tee box. Like, oh yeah, you're playing with him. He's like, I forget his name, Bob or something. And we roll back up and I'm like, hey man, how's it going? He's like, hey, what's going on, guys? And like, just the funniest dude, you know, playing Grateful Dead, just like having a good old fashioned retired lifetime.
Nice.
And at the wedding later on that night, I said like, hey, you know, I played golf with this guy today. And the wedding planner was like, oh, you mean like Bob? He's like our local fire marshal. And I was like, shit, he actually is a local legend. Like I can tell people I played golf with a Sun Valley, Idaho local legend.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was good. We had a good time. The wedding was great. And then got back, did a little bit of business travels, and then just have been kind of settling in. So family's good. Everybody's cooking. The weather in Arizona, since it's always a topic for us to talk about.
Yeah, how is it?
I woke up to like 50s and 60s the last couple days.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Gets warm in the middle of the day, nice and cozy, and then just drops right back down at night.
Oh, man.
That's why I live here, honestly, nowadays.
Jealous.
The winter weather. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds incredible.
How about you? What's been going on in your neck of the woods?
You know, not a whole hell of a lot. We've got Halloween around the corner, obviously, and Bridget likes to make the girls' costumes. It's her thing. It usually ends up costing like 5x what it would to just buy the costume in the first place. But it's cool. It's unique. The girls love it. So she's making costumes, and thankfully, it's not going to go down to the wire like it has in years past. So we're doing that. We're playing soccer on the weekends. Life is good, man. We're just plugging along, and we're gonna start listening to Christmas music here soon. I feel like
I'm just gonna sneak in one day. You're just gonna turn on the radio and it'll be there. That's what happens with me because Bailey gets it on before I can stop her and banish the radio channel from our radio for all eternity. Hey, the soccer with the girls, is that fun? Rio's doing her first like little like kids sprint thing, and I'm excited because it's gonna be like her just running full speed and probably turning around and running back at me, but I don't know. It seems like fun. Is the soccer stuff good for the girls?
Yeah, it's cool. They like it. They, get out there and run around, and it's so Penn is 7 and the 7-year-olds like group up and like kick each other in the shins for 30 minutes and the ball's in between them all. And then she doesn't love that part of it, but and then Quinn, who's 3, it's more like there's 10 kids out there, 2 of them are like freak athletes for being 3 years old, and they'll score like 12 goals a game, like to the 2 kids. So it's fun. It's good. They get out, get some exercise, tire them out a little bit, but it's freaking adorable. Obviously.
Well, now you've got me convinced that little Miss Rio needs to be signed up for 3-year-old soccer. So thank you for that one. What are you sipping on tonight, man? Would you pour on the rocks?
I've got gin and tonic.
Oh, I almost went gin and tonic. Almost did it.
We've never matched up.
We haven't. That's actually funny that all these times we've never actually had the same thing. I went, don't hate me for this, but in celebration of the Red Bull Constructors, I did vodka Red Bull, which is a dangerous move because I have an early flight in the morning. So I'll see how this goes.
Man, I have not had a vodka Red Bull in years.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'm pre-gaming for my Vegas trip, right?
Yeah, you're not fucking around, man. I love it.
Man.
We are on to one of my favorite parts of the show, the One Breath Race review. It's Will's turn to do it this week. And nobody's heard this before, first time listener, whatever it is, you forgot, we do a one breath race review. So we try to plug in everything that happened in the race into a single run on sentence and one breath, most importantly. So without further ado, hold on, let me grab my stopwatch here. Let's see what we got. Okay, without further ado, go ahead, Will. I'm ready when you are.
I'll give you the point for the clock start. Okay.
All righty.
Wait. Hang on. I gotta redo the breath on that one. Okay, hang on. Ready? All right, here we go. Go. Sunshine in the States. No need for wet tires on this one. PU penalties out the wazoo, leaving signs in pole. Didn't matter, though, with the shyster Russell handing out Texas-sized T-bones in corner one. Race on until Bottas lost his bottom and Stroll sent Alonso on a literal flyer, giving us a wobbly mirror, 2 safety cars, and a barrage of bizarre pit stops with wonky jackmen. Let it be, Max's lucky number 13, and the lockdown of Red Bull's 5th constructors in honor of Dietrich Mateschitz. May he rest in peace.
Oh, dude, that was dedication to the craft right there. I felt like you were running out of air halfway through and you just fucking muscled through it.
I pushed it. Let it be.
That's
Let it
impressive.
be. I had to push it there. Yeah.
Damn, I was a little late stopping it. I got it
okay.
at 29:17. It's not about the time anyway.
I've
but
given up beating your time now. It's all about it's the comedy in one breath now. I feel is what we've kind of turned it into.
Dude,
yeah.
I love it.
You'd like the Texas sized T-bones? That was a good one, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because you know, and listeners know how I feel about Russell. So anyway, yeah. So I don't want to get right into Russell. But first we have a caption this contest winner.
Yeah. We've been pumping up this contest. Shout out to Camel Neon. We'll make sure that obviously as we move forward into the week, he gets linked into a lot of our promotional materials and the stuff for this podcast. But he is actually sponsoring this contest to set up one of our lucky Twitter followers with a custom neon in the track of their choosing. And our winner this week is Anita at Annie_328. And right. Brian always calls out their Twitter like bio description. So London, Atlanta, Nashville, crafts, food, travels, and tech. And she's also obviously an avid F1 fan. If you go check her out, follow her on Twitter. She was at the Austin GP.
Nice.
Having a good old fashioned time. So yeah, thanks to Annie for listening. Thanks for being an avid listener. We appreciate you. We'll get in touch with you via DM on Twitter to get your information so we can make sure you get the goodies from at Camel Neon. Make sure you get the
Absolutely.
surprise.
And I'm curious what track she's going to pick.
That's a good question. We should place bets on what track Annie's going to pick. All right. What do you think she's going to pick?
My assumption is Coda. It's one of the best tracks of the year. She was there. Maybe that's just like the easy way out is guessing Coda. I don't know. What do you think?
I think Canada. I think she's going to go with Canada.
Well, yeah, I like it.
All right, we'll see. We'll see where she ends up. Yeah,
we shall see. Now we move in to the race review, the official race review, not the one breath, because it's going to take us way too long. But we'll keep it relatively concise. But the start is obviously the first thing we want to talk about, and everybody saw our friend George Russell just kind of chuck it into turn one, locked up and ended up getting the side of Carlos Sainz, who started in pole but lost first position 100 meters off the line. I got to tell you, I love Carlos Sainz. I do not like George Russell, but I've got to defend George Russell a little bit here. The line Carlos took is not a line you take on lap one where there's 18 cars right behind you.
You take it on a lap when there's someone behind you and you're defending a position on a turn into corner one, not a race start. And I agree. That is precisely the sentence I had planned here is you just can't do what Carlos did there and expect to get away with it at race start. It's not going to work.
Totally. Yeah. Like that's it. What it kind of reminded me of was Max and Lewis last year. A lot of times, somebody goes on the inside and then, all right, the guy on the outside breaks real early, stays way outside, tries the switchback. And it's like Sainz is trying to switch back on turn one at Coda on lap one. It's like, dude, I love you, but that is not the play.
I think it was a little bit of a combination of things. Like I don't necessarily believe that he made that he drove that line so purposely. I think he ended up having to drive that line because he was playing defense on the outside, headed into corner one, and he was so committed at that point that he had to make that kind of turn into corner one, leaving himself exposed. And so, yeah, you know, I like the way that this trickled out, and that Russell was like, "Yep, my bad. Sorry about that." You know,
Agreed.
Russell did Ask Me Anything on Reddit, and the first question was like, "Hey, if Sainz hit you in corner one, do you think that a 5-second penalty would have been enough?" And he just never answered the question. I was like, "That's perfect." Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I guess race starts are always going to be dicey, and Carlos made a mistake, leaving himself kind of open there, and you know, Russell took advantage of it, and then kind of extra took advantage of it. So
yeah, that was unfortunate for my boy Carlos, but what are you gonna do? And but it was a you know, other than that, it was a clean start. You know, there wasn't any shenanigans, you know, in the midfield or at the back of the field. So the first 15-20 laps after that turn one, lap one was really starting to get a little bit boring. And I was thinking to myself, like, fuck, another one of these races where we're going to sit here for whatever it is, 55 or 60 laps and be bored to tears. But thankfully, Valtteri Bottas caught a gust of wind and lost the rear end and got stuck in the gravel and caused a safety car.
Yeah. It was funny on the live broadcast, right? Somebody was like, "Oh, looks like Bottas just lost the rear end," and then they panned to Bottas, and he goes, "I just lost the rear end," and I was like, "Wow, that was perfect commentating." They didn't even know he was going to say that.
That's funny. Did you see the onboard of that? It was like out of nowhere. Just
whoop, he was moving through the corner, and you have to just wonder if that literally was just enough wind to push the back tires right off from underneath him. It sucks because I had him on a couple of the Grid Rivals teams, and I was like, he's been doing really well. He had a great weekend, you know, leading up to that race, and that's the nature of the game. Unfortunately, the wind got the best of him there.
Yeah, for sure. And Valtteri has had a rough second half of the season.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
He's taking a beating. There were some quotes on the Bottas topic real quick with him talking about IndyCar. I don't know if you caught this at all.
Oh, no.
But he was saying something to the effect of like, IndyCar really interests me. It seems like there's much less drama, and I like the tracks and some other things. And I was like, oh shit, is this like, wow, is this your boy like putting in a good word? Because he won I can't keep up with him. He won a bike race in the US before he went to Austin. So he's like, the dude is a monster.
Yeah. So his girlfriend is like a professional bike racer. So he's into it now, and he's a beast.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we'll see. Maybe Bottas ends up in Indy before Danny Rick does.
Yeah, man, that would be cool. Speaking of Indy, not to get totally off topic, we'll get back to the race review. But did you see Latifi is racing an IndyCar next year?
I did. I caught that headline. Yeah.
Good for him. That makes me happy. I'm glad to see that he didn't just disappear off the face of the earth.
Yeah, it's nice because, right, it's obvious that he cares about racing and he's passionate. You don't want anyone to ever have that passion stripped of them for any reason other than some sort of moral thing.
Yeah.
But, you know, in his case, he just sucked at driving F1. So I'm actually rooting for him in IndyCar, and maybe
totally. Yeah, me too. I agree. All right. Anyway, back to the race.
Speaking of sucky drivers.
Yeah, exactly. So that Bottas was our first safety car. Our second safety car, which was like 2 laps after it went green after the first, was the Alonso Stroll incident. And the Alonso Stroll incident was pretty ridiculous on Stroll's part. So if anybody missed this, they're going down the back straight. Alonso is coming up behind Stroll. He's got the speed on him. It's going to be an easy pass. And Alonso moves out to the left from behind Stroll to overtake. Stroll gives a very late jerk to the left. Alonso kind of runs up behind him, like up his back wheel, and the car kind of goes up like it's going to take off into the air or flip a la Mark Webber, a decade ago. Thankfully it didn't, but it got to probably a 45-degree angle to the ground and then slammed back down, hit the barrier, and the dude finished the race in the points.
Yeah, your boy did a straight up wheelie in a Formula One car. Like, I don't know how that's even possible, but like watching it happen, I was like, this is cool. Oh my gosh, this is really scary, you know? And someone pointed out a while back that like, it was really extra scary when you go back and watch from a different camera angle that isn't like looking at the front of the car, like from behind the car, because you see there's actually an opening in the wall on the left side of the track. And so if he had stayed up longer and kept moving forward before the car came down and he was able to kind of pull it away from the barrier, he could have like split the car in half on a barrier wall. And that would have been like just a really, really nasty accident. So I'm happy that didn't happen. I'm also happy with the way Alonso handled that. It's nuts. If you watch the driver cam, he's in air, right? and he doesn't do what I would do, which is panic the fuck and go like this. Right? He goes like this. He just like makes like it's gonna turn the car while it's in a wheelie, like just a very small like 5-degree adjustment of the steering wheel, and then the car comes down and it like corrects and pulls him away from the wall, and then he just kind of bounces into the wall. And I was like, wow, that was insane. Like
That's
calm,
nuts.
cool, collected Alonso. But yeah, that was unfortunate. Stroll, obviously, you know, everybody called it out. Like, dude, you can't do that. That's like a big no. You know?
Yeah, you could kill somebody. And Stroll after the race said, "Oh, I left him a lot of room." It's like, dude, what a stupid answer that is. Like,
Yeah.
we're not talking about going into a corner here and like him getting squeezed out. Like, sure, there's 50 meters to the left. That's totally irrelevant. And what I loved, because obviously Fernando is going to be racing for Stroll's dad next year, right? If that were anybody else, Fernando would have been losing his fucking
He would have been like,
mind.
fuck you. Yeah, exactly.
Losing his mind. And instead, he comes off the wall, he gets it back. It's a bit of a late move.
Yep.
It's just like,
yep.
Oh my gosh. Crazy.
So we'll get back to this later, but I just have to plant the seed in our audience's ear that when he came down and had the impact and all those other things happened with Lance, he had a wiggly right mirror. And I thought to myself, wow, that's kind of funny considering the backhanded comment he made to Hamilton about like, looks like dude doesn't even have any mirrors. And I was like, okay, well, let's just stash that one for later. But we'll get there. I just, you know, if you didn't notice when he came down and had the rough landing, he did have like some loose parts of his vehicle.
Yeah.
So
what was absolutely nuts, and we'll get off of this. He goes into the pit, comes out 17th. He goes in, he gets new tires, gets a new front wing, does the rest of the race. Like that Alpine, how the suspension didn't break or even just get damaged is mind-blowing.
No idea. Yeah, no idea. Especially considering Lance's car just basically imploded. Or
right.
Yeah, so it was kind of like him just sitting there in the middle of the track while Alonso drives away in the sunset. And it's like, hey man, don't do that. Bye.
You know? That's crazy. All right. So on to the pivotal point in the race, why this was an exciting race, was Max's pit stop. So Max comes in, the front left wheel gun had some problem. The tire came off fine. They put the new one on, tightened it up, but it didn't trigger whatever sensor it needed to confirm that it was good. So he ended up having, I think, an 11-second stop. So he was overtaken by Hamilton. He was overtaken by Leclerc, who also went into the pit, 8 seconds behind him or whatever it was. So Hamilton comes up, or I'm sorry, Verstappen comes up behind those guys, and now he's got to hunt them down. So talk to us a little bit about that. What was the situation with tires? How was it looking?
Well, he was headed into the pit with what the team at the time believed would have been enough delta with a proper pit stop to actually get out in front of Hamilton. Data shows after that wasn't necessarily the case. Like he still would have come out of the pit basically parallel to Hamilton. It really, the damage was done in that he had to end up back behind Leclerc as well. And the issue was that I think when they went in, they're thinking great medium tires, he'll be fine. He might have to pass Hamilton, but he won't be driving so hard that he'll have to crush those tires. The issue was that by putting him on those mediums and then having that extended pit stop, he had to push a little bit more to get in front of Leclerc and to get in front of Hamilton in a couple different passing scenarios than he would have. And that, that led up to the suspense, which was the Hamilton and Max kind of showdown toward closer to the end of the race. I think it was like 50-second lap or something like that. But yeah, it was nice to see that there was something going on other than Max driving off into the sunset again, we're kind of getting used to that at this point. But at the same time, you can't help in that moment but be like, damn, Lewis might get this, quintessential one win every season, and Mercedes really wants this. This could be really good for them. And then Max gets out and just starts cranking, and he's eaten out of a 7-second delta like it's breakfast. So yeah, he did a good job despite the slow pit, and it happens. That's why the pit crews are part of this game, man. It's not just the driver, it's the whole team. So.
Yeah, for sure. I was rooting hard for Hamilton. All the girls here at the Dower House were rooting hard for him. So unfortunate he couldn't get it, but it was a great drive from Max. Again, he didn't put a foot wrong. He was inch perfect, and got the job done. So, but talk about the end of the race. We had Seb. So before we get into his overtake over Magnussen, he got totally boned. He had like a 16-second stop. It was something absurd.
Yeah.
because he was up in 6th or 5th.
Yeah.
Well, he led for a couple laps when the pit stop started happening. But
Yep.
I mean, realistically, running 5th or 6th.
Yeah, I think without the slow pit stop, he would have come out further up in the top 10, which would have gave him some opportunities to not have to have those later race fights, which were fun to watch. Pulled into the pit though, Jackman 1 throws him up. They can't get the front left off the way that they needed to. They get it off. They can't get the front left back on the way they needed to. So they drop Jackman 1, bring in Jackman 2, who pops it up. They're able to make sure that it was secured, and then they let him off again. So that whole scenario basically threw him into that, I think what you said, 16-second pit stop, which pushed him down, I think a bit more than he wanted to be. But yeah, he was crushing it up until that point, and obviously he was leading the race, so he was doing something right to be up there for that long. So
yeah, that was awesome seeing his name up there. But anyway, so final lap. He's hunting down Kevin Magnussen, and they're getting toward the end of the lap, and they're coming around the 3 right-hand turns. I don't know what their names are, or if they even have them, but it's kind of like turn 8 in Turkey, kind of just a long, you can take it flat, but late in the race when your tires are maybe not the best, and when you're right next to Kevin Magnussen, who has a tendency to not give people room. Seb just fucking pinned it, went around the outside of K-Mag, and then dropped on the inside for, I think, turn 19 there, the left hand, like 90-degree left-hander, and then held him off. It looked like that final turn, which they just named Andretti. That final turn, it looked like K-Mag was going to chuck it up the inside. I'm like, don't you fucking dare do this.
You take him out right now, I'm going to punch you down. Yeah, exactly. No, it's crazy because for some of our rookie Rocks listeners, like when you leave the racing line, there's immediately a risk. Like your risk level goes up because you're driving on rubber, you're driving on track that doesn't have like proper tack or heat to it. And so just that alone was risky. Then as Brian pointed out, like, having to go right up next to Magnussen on a very high speed, what is like 3 turns in a row where the wheel is cranking. I think it's like 3.9 G's basically. They're throwing you into the left side of the car. So you're like, your neck is cranked and you're turning. Like it was an outstanding drive move. And I think I heard somebody else kind of point out, like for a guy that's retiring, you would never know. Like if you hadn't seen the announcement yourself, you would never think that he was on his way out because of the way he still drives that car. It's pretty badass.
Did you watch his onboard for that overtake?
I think I caught a glimpse of it, but I didn't actually go back and watch the full onboard of it. Yeah.
So like midway through that, like 3 right-handers, he catches like a snap oversteer.
Does he?
So he's like this, has the the wheel at I don't know, whatever, 30 degrees or whatever it is, and then catches a snap oversteer, goes completely back the other way and catches it, and then continues the right-hander. It was fucking insane, dude. It was worth watching.
Yeah, I'll go back and check it out. That sounds pretty good. We'll have to find it and link it in for podcast listeners too.
Yeah, for sure.
So, if you've listened to our last episodes, Brian and I are obviously big Vettel fans. I call him, Big Daddy Vettel. He's been around. He's earned his keep and the the record that he has and who he's been. It's been consistent, and I think that's what you really want from a grade in any sport. Is you want them to be who they are, be consistent, and be the best that they can be, no matter who they're racing for, and that's pretty cool. So the Circuit of the Americas, like campus, the racetrack itself, has now created something that they're calling Vettel Grove, and it's 296 trees for his 296 race starts, and it's going to basically turn into like this nice like tree jungle, like forest right at the COTA campus. And I was like, that's like a really cool way to pay homage to him, because it's it awesome. Gives towards his cause of being green and eco-friendly, and it's also like 296 trees to like honor him and his legacy. So I thought that was really cool. I'll link it in, but it's here on Reddit, and somebody put that up there, but I'll link it out for everybody to catch it in the podcast description.
That's awesome.
Yep.
So back to Alonso, because we had some post-race, one post-race penalty, one post-race no penalty. So Haas contested, I guess maybe is the word I'm looking for, or filed a grievance, whatever the fuck words
lodged an official complaint.
An official complaint. Thank you. I needed help on that one. After the race, and because K-Mag specifically has gotten the meatball flag seemingly like 4 or 5 times this season. And the meatball flag is when you have damage to your car and the race director is saying you have to go into the pit and fix that because it's dangerous. So Haas has been a bit pissed off all year because of that. Some of them I think were valid. Some of them I think were maybe not, but the FIA has to be cautious, and that's part of their job, is to keep everybody safe. So it is what it is. So long story short, Haas lodged this complaint against Alonso for his shaky mirror that eventually fell off and then sat on the track for like till the end of the race. And also Perez, who had wing damage, and he had an end plate on his front wing hanging off that fell off 4 or 5 laps after. Yeah. So Haas is saying, hey, we get the meatball flag all the time. What about these guys? And the FIA gave Fernando Alonso a 10-second stop go, which means because the race is over, they had 30 seconds to his race time. And he dropped out of the points basically, all the way to the end. What are your thoughts on that penalty?
Yeah, I'm peeved. I'm pissed. I'm really honestly angry. Like, the whole weekend was great and fantastic until this shit went down with the FIA kind of poorly handling all of this stuff. Yeah. There's a couple things going on, and this is how I break all this down. So I'm going to preface all of this with the last thing I ever want is for a driver to get injured based off of an object flying off the car. That being said, that Gunther Steiner's on the pit wall watching a live feed, like, because they have the 10 screen. So he's watching a live feed and he sees the front wing of Perez's car flapping. That's precisely the same thing that Magnussen has been meatballed twice for this season.
Yep.
So the first instinct is, and I know that he did this because I went back and found out, he gets on the radio and he says, hey, like, race director, this is happening, right? And they're like, great, we got it, thanks. Does it again. Hey, race director, this is happening. Great, got it, thanks. The problem is that the race director isn't being consistent with the way that they're applying it. And then the post-race FIA stewards are the ones saying, like, hey, we need to implement a penalty here. And it's like, well, why aren't the two of you fucking talking about this? Like, why are we here at a position where you had the opportunity to do the right thing during the race, but you're waiting until after the race to make a big thing of this? Like, that's definitely not, it's not fair. Like, this isn't like a kid thing. It's not fair that they did to Magnussen what they did to Magnussen, but didn't do what they should have done to Perez. And here's what I haven't yet done, but I'm going to before our next episode. I want to measure the time between the noticeable wing on the F1 TV feed, the wing flapping, and when the meatball flag was released. Because people are saying, oh, well, Perez's wing fell off before they were able to give him a meatball flag. And I think that's bullshit, because I saw him driving at least 2 laps before it actually flew off.
Yeah.
And I know that for Magnussen's sake, I remember, like, he made the corner, it was wobbling. He had a radio message within 5 seconds that was like, you need to come in for your front wing. So just the inconsistency really upsets me. And then the stuff with Alonso, it's the same scenario. If you watched when the mirror for Alonso flies off, he's doing the same thing that he did to Stroll. He's flying up on somebody and he goes to pass, and the mirror catches a wind stream coming off the car in front of him, and that's what ripped the mirror right off the car. Huh. So, I don't know why they're having such a hard time doing this, like, in race, or if they're just afraid of getting backlash, but it's the complete opposite of what we were doing last year when, a team principal could just get on the phone and bitch, and the race director would be like, okay, fine. Now we're not doing that. It's the complete opposite, where the race director is being like, hey, guys, fix this. And they're like, we'll figure it out,
Right.
Just not fair.
The craziest, and I couldn't agree more on any of that stuff. With the Alonso thing, it's like, you're penalizing Alonso because you didn't make him come in during the race.
Exactly.
Like, you're penalizing Alonso because your race director didn't do what he should have done.
Right.
Like, it's not fucking Alonso's fault. And their replies look, oh, the team should have called him in. No fucking race team. If you're out there and your car is running and it's working and it's not like a serious safety concern to people on your team, they're not going to come in. Are you fucking crazy?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Yeah. There was an interesting take that I heard that it could be interesting as we go into testing for next year to see how teams work around these types of issues, like almost preemptively thinking like, great, if we lose a mirror, how are we gonna fix that problem, right? Because you need the mirror, it's a safety problem or whatever. Okay, fine, can't see out the rear mirror, how do we in a 5-second pit stop get a new mirror on the car, like,
Right.
and it's an interesting take. I don't know if it really makes that big of a difference right now. Obviously it would be shitty to have to DNF for not having a mirror, but I do agree with you wholeheartedly. There's no way that we can post race hold a racer and a race team accountable for something that they didn't do that they were supposed to do if
Right.
you didn't let them know that they were supposed to have done that.
Yeah.
So
It's like that should have been roughing the passer back in the third quarter, but we never threw a flag. But we're gonna give them a couple points now. Like,
yeah,
what? It's
yeah,
crazy.
it makes no sense. It makes zero sense. Yeah.
Crazy. So real quick, I have to comment on this. So we'll get into some one quick news item. I know we've got a couple of things to get into, but did you see any of this Will Buxton, Martin Brundle beef?
I think I saw some back and forth, what seemed like a Twitter type war scenario between the two of them, but I didn't
Yeah.
go down the rabbit hole. I just kept seeing things come up and be like, wow, that's more Will than I've heard Will be before. And then from Brundle, I just assume it's always like, him being a blabber. But what
Right.
happened? Yeah.
So for the record, I'm Team Brundle.
Okay.
In general, prior
Okay.
to this,
Okay.
I am a big Martin Brundle fan. I love all the Sky guys, to be quite honest, and I don't know why, but I don't know. Maybe
They're
it's the
entertaining.
accent.
No, yeah, they're
But
entertaining.
so Brundle goes to get a word with Brad Pitt during his grid walk, and Brad Pitt basically blows him off. So then Will Buxton goes on Twitter and posts kind of a nasty, like passive aggressive message, like, we get a list of people who don't want to be talked to. So don't talk to them. Us on F1 TV, our celebrities are the drivers, something like that. So Brundle replies to the tweet and is like, basically like, you're making that up, Will. That's not true. Don't make something up to suit your narrative. And was like, damn, like these are two like professional journalists giving each other shit here, like for everybody to see.
Yeah.
So then whatever, Buxton comes back and yada, yada, yada. But, it's a silly Twitter scuffle. But like when it's two relatively high profile people like that, it's like, damn, they're just like us.
Yeah. It's funny too. Bailey pulled this article because it came up in our evening conversations, and she was like, "Did you see like the Brad Pitt thing?" And I was like, "Yeah." My knee jerk was to defend Brad Pitt and be like, Megan Thee Stallion did the same shit last year to Brundle on the grid at the Austin race. Our security was like, "Fuck off, we don't want to talk to you." And it's like, I get it. Like, I know, A-list celebrity, da 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 da. I think the factor that plays a different role in this conversation is that Brad Pitt is slated to play a very large role in what is going to be, a heavily F1 industry induced feature. And so it's like, hey man, you got to want to like participate in the rodeo if you're going to be the guy depicting what the rodeo is actually like,
Yeah.
So I get it. Between Brundle and Buxton though, I do agree. I think like there was no need for Buxton to come out and say what he said. At that point, the damage was done. Brundle was obviously trying to interview Brad and he didn't want anything to do with him. So everybody saw it. That's all that needed to happen.
Right. Agreed. I heard a lot of ridiculous takes. And I guess for the record, like, I'm kind of cool with how it's been. Like, if you're a badass celebrity, you don't want to talk to anybody and you want to tell them to fuck off, go ahead.
Yeah.
I don't care. I like it. Like, that's what makes like these funny moments of the grid walk. Like, if everybody was like, "Oh, hey," and answered all the questions like a robot, like it'd be dumb and boring and nobody would care.
I agree. And I guess that's the other part to take in consideration is it's a grid walk. Like, they're all just walking through the grid.
Yeah.
And then you got Martin Brundle with a microphone up at you. And it's like, okay, you're on the spot, like,
right.
It should be organic. If it's not organic, then what's the point of it?
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
I got you this week for the dope ass helmet of the week segment, which is my new thing. I'm gonna keep throwing it in there because it's too fun. But did you see Danny Rick's helmet?
I did.
Okay,
awesome.
For the listeners, if you haven't seen it, give it a quick Google. He had on the back of his helmet it said, "I want to go fast," and it was a reference to. And he had the cougar on the side. It was a reference to Ricky Bobby and Talladega Nights. And it is a freaking perfect helmet for the Austin race. Like whoever set him up for that and did kind of that planning for him was pretty good. And I guess in rare form, John C. Reilly was in a full Wonder Bread NASCAR race suit, and it was also spotted around Circuit of Americas as well. So that was kind of funny to see that little bit of a duo going on there. Obviously, everybody has their conspiracy theories about Danny Rick headed to NASCAR, but we'll see how that actually ends up. Yeah,
that's awesome. He's the man. He had another horrendous race, maybe the worst race of his career. We don't have to talk about it, but we just got to throw it out there. That was a horrible race by Danny Rick.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Lando definitely has the McLaren team on his back. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Reddit on the rocks. My other fun segment. I know people are like, Will, just get over your stupid fun segments. No one gives a shit. I give a shit. That's why we're doing it. Okay.
I like him, Will.
Thanks, Brian. I appreciate you. This Tim Cook checkered flag thing. So for podcast listeners, if you didn't catch it, there was no way that if you weren't watching the race live, that if you were watching the race live, you didn't think to yourself, well, that's just fucking awkward. Because they put Tim Cook in the checkered flag booth, handed him a checkered flag, and when here comes the race end, waved the checkered flag. And damn if it wasn't the most awkward thing you've ever seen in your life. I just don't even know, like, what was your take on this whole thing?
It was the most awkward thing ever. It's like, so it was the most, I'll change it. It was the most software engineer thing ever. And I know I'm grouping a large group of people, that way, but it was just like, come on, man. Like, are you asleep? Like, fucking wave that thing.
Yeah, so when you and I started talking about this, I went to Reddit and I went to the Formula Dank, which is the subreddit for Formula One memes, and I just searched Tim Cook's name, and like you can go through in the last 3 days, there's been nth number of Tim Cook memes, but the funny one, which obviously we'll link it in, is somebody said another angle of Tim Cook waving the checkered flag, and it's Weekend at Bernie's where his arm's on a rope and they're moving his arm up and down, and it's just hilarious. Like, Tim Cook definitely is not the best checkered flag waver. We can concur on that.
Just zero enthusiasm.
Yeah. So my other funny Reddit on the rocks dealio here is this post that I stumbled upon, which is drivers ranked on how good their name sounds when you swap their first initial and their last initial. And at first you start reading them and you're like, oh, that's not that bad. But then you start to like think about it for a second. And you're like, this is pretty good. So some of the standouts for me, and I think that this one holds especially true after this weekend, is Hernando Flonzo is a pretty good one. Like he literally went into the air this week. I like Nando Loris, which is a pretty good one. And then my best runner up here was Nicholas Natifi. But there's some pretty good ones in here.
I like Vax Verstappen.
Yeah, that kind of sounds like something you'd see in Zoolander as like one of the models, right? Yeah. But yeah, good. We'll link that into the post as well. Just some kind of fun Formula One stuff that pops up.
Love it.
Well, then, talk to us about what's been happening in Formula One news.
On to the news. So we, I guess, would have had more budget cap talk. But as Will mentioned in his One Breast race review, the owner of Red Bull, not just the Red Bull racing team, but Red Bull period, passed away. So the FIA and Red Bull and kind of everyone just agreed to give it a little bit of time before continuing the talks about being over the budget cap and yada, 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 which I think is nice and respectable. And it's nice that everybody kind of on both sides were cool with that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, we're still waiting to hear the latest. I don't know if it's official or not, but the 1.8 million over budget is, again, I don't know if it's rumor or official, but it seems like that amount is kind of narrowing. So we're getting closer to maybe what the official number is. As I just smack my microphone away from my face. So yeah, hopefully we'll hear something this weekend. I would assume we will, probably Thursday press conference day. I think we'll hear something.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing is, now the championship and the constructors are locked, so that's fine and all dandy. And like that was the one headline that F1 really cared about. Now the only other thing that F1 can care about is who's going to take second in the constructors, which again, still a tight race. Also, who's going to take second in the drivers' championship, still a tight race. Yeah. So we kind of shifted from this 1 to 2 thing. I I wouldn't be shocked if this sits and trickles almost until the last race, because there's not really any reason for whatever needs to occur from a penalty standpoint to be released until after the season's over. It's not going to impact this season. It's going to impact next season. So
Right.
it does no good other than stir up extra drama. And if you're F1 and you're Netflix and you're these teams, you want that drama to carry you through the summer break, not give cloudy narratives to what's happening in second place drivers and second place
Right.
constructors championship. That's my opinion.
Yeah, you might be right. Maybe they'll push it off and they'll talk about it during the the break between Mexico and Brazil, or maybe they'll just keep kicking it, like you said, down the road until the season's over, and then they can do a news dump a couple weeks after and keep everybody hooked on F1.
Yeah, I foresee that like Drive to Survive scene where they're like, and then the season ended, and then ... next season penalties or something. Yeah, whatever.
In driver news, Williams has officially gone with Logan Sargent, meaning signed Logan Sargent, pending his super license. So he needs to finish 6th or higher.
Yeah.
Which is all but done, unless some crazy things happen. So good for him. We're getting American on the grid. He's racing for Williams, which is now an American-owned team.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate he's racing for Williams, and when we finally get an American driver back on the grid, because we're never going to see him, they'll do the old George Russell, Nicholas Latifi, like get out their very first cars for practice and quali, be waiting for that green light so they can get some airtime and their sponsors can get on TV and all that good stuff. But yeah, that's very cool. I'm pumped to have a driver on an American driver on the grid, and I've actually met Logan Sargent and had a nice little conversation with him.
Was that down at the Miami GP that you got a chance to meet him?
It was.
That's cool.
Yeah. He was a very nice kid. He was behind Albon and Latifi and was just standing there. I was like, hey man, what's up? Like, how you doing? When are you going to get in a car? Are you going to do some FP1 sessions or whatever? He's like, yeah. And shot the shit with me for a couple minutes and was super cool. And Penelope, my 7-year-old, loves him because he's very handsome.
Yeah, he is a handsome man. I thought it was nice that I saw a release that Williams made, I guess, basically mention of like, just so everyone's clear, we didn't pick him because he's an American. We picked him because he's a good driver and we think he's going to do well for the team. And I thought that was a nice way of them being, of them standing up for him and letting him get a clean shot at this without having a stimulus around why he has the seat. He's obviously earned it, or he wouldn't be in it. They would have gone with somebody else. So
yeah, and like he's all of these guys. We even bust Latifi's balls. Latifi's a legitimate driver, right? All of these guys are. They're not an F1 if they wouldn't be. But like Logan Sargent has performed over his career, and some people rate him on his day better than Piastri. He's super aggressive, so we might see some chaos, which I'm down with. But aggressive is a hell of a lot more fun than conservative. Sure,
I don't disagree. And the beauty of it is, if if you're listening to this segment and you're like, Logan Sargent, what? Go back and watch a couple F2 races from this season. If you're actually subscribed to F1 TV, you'll see how he drives, and it's pretty impressive. I think he's gonna be in for a treat. Along with his seat being filled, we still have one open seat, right?
We do. Yeah, Gene Haas has yet to make his decision. And Gunther has basically said, like, Mick needs to score points if he wants his seat. And Mick ain't scoring any points.
Haas is scoring new sponsors, which gives everyone who's been a Haas follower for the last 4 years a little bit of anxiety inside of their hearts. If you haven't watched Drive to Survive, you should go back and catch what happened with Haas's last actually big money sponsor, big title sponsor. They threw them through the ringer. So hopefully this new one won't do the same, and they'll be off to the races with some money and some funding for what they need next season.
Yeah, and the sponsor is
MoneyGram. So they actually do have money in this case. Hopefully, maybe.
yeah, seriously. The other big news, which came out today, we're recording on the day some news came out for the first time seemingly ever.
No, are you lying right now? Wait, no, there's got to be more news to this tomorrow that's going to come out.
Yeah, for sure. Audi has inked a deal with the Sauber team. The team you all know is Alfa Romeo. So Alfa Romeo is just a name sponsor. It's still Team Sauber. And I think they're in Switzerland, if memory serves. I think they're a Swiss team.
Okay.
And Audi is buying 50% of them, and they are going to be the Audi Works team.
Dope.
Yeah, so Audi's going to manufacture the ICE and the power unit, and there's going to be an Audi team on the grid, another Works team, which is awesome for F1. Who knows? Maybe they'll sell their power units to other customer teams. So this is super cool. I'm pumped for this.
Yeah, and this I'm guessing, because I didn't catch this headline, is going to be 2025. 2026.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I was like, just so everyone's clear, we're not seeing
It's
Audi
not
this year.
next season.
Yeah, that's too fast of a turnaround time. By the way, if you're curious, interested, and have extra abilities in the engineering, maybe check Audi's website. There might be some F1 engineering jobs open that you could pop yourself into and
for sure
do better than listening to us. You could actually have hands-on a Formula One vehicle.
Absolutely. So, Will, I typically do the race previews. This one is yours, my man. Tell us about Mexico.
Mexico, Aerodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the
Look at
Mexico
you.
City GP.
Man.
Pretty pumped. You know, I as we go through this season, I'm always like, ooh, I would love to go to that race. Ooh, I would love to go to that race. Ooh, I would love to go to that race. You know, like that episode of Family Guy where it's like,
piece of candy.
Yeah, that's exactly the one. Thank you for that. So when I see the Mexico GP every year, when I watch it, I'm like, this would be sick. Like the stadium, just like it just would be so cool to go to. And it's probably much cheaper now than going to Miami, Austin, or Vegas. So I might be looking at some Mexico City GP tickets for next year. But yeah,
that would be awesome.
The first GP here was in 1963. It's a 71 lap race, which
wow.
I recall it feeling long. Like I think there was a point at like the 55 lap mark last year where I was like, oh, can we just get this over with already? Because it is kind of a relatively longer track to have a 71 lap track, but I enjoy kind of watching the last. For me, the last part of the track is really fun to watch because it gets those dicey turns, this quick little horse left, horse right, and then a straight. So the lap record is currently held by Valtteri Bottas, 2021. So last season he put up a 1:17.7. I'm thinking that if you recall, he had pole position last year.
Yeah.
And they basically went 4 wide, the 2 Mercedes on the inside and the 2 Red Bull on the outside. And Bottas made the right play, which was to safe brake coming into corner 1. So he didn't get tangled with anybody. But in doing so, Ricardo carried enough speed to bump into the back of Bottas, threw him into a spin, and that knocked Bottas basically to the back. So I believe what happened is that Bottas played the whole race, kept playing catch up, and then probably threw on a pair of softs and picked up the fastest lap time to snag that point away from Max at that point, who was really trying really hard to win. But yeah, the reason I love this track, the main reason I love this track is that the start is a drag race. Like it's a straight up all out pedal to the floor as fast as you can shift all the way to corner 1. And what happens is you just get like an amalgamation of 20 cars in this corner that like can't all make it through the corner. Like someone's going out the back or into somebody cutting across that corner 1. And it's a really fun start to the race. So it might be worth placing some bets if you're a betting person to kind of figure out who gets a DNF in that first corner. You could make some good money there.
Yeah, for sure. And the race last year, I think we mentioned this a couple pods ago, but you were saying they were coming down 4 wide and Verstappen just outbraked everybody. It was the most baller fucking move. And it's like, damn, this guy is fucking good.
Yeah. He waited until the like millisecond of when he could actually hit the brakes, and that put him just in front of everybody through that corner. It was a fantastic driving move. But things we can look forward to for the Mexico GP coming up this weekend, and that is Mercedes is hunting for their second place in the constructors. They're only 53 points behind Ferrari. So a DNF here and a DNF the next race, and suddenly Mercedes could sneak in, which
talking about a lot of money
would be a lot of money, and also a real big landslide for Ferrari, who had felt kind of like they had deserved number 2 all season. Like if you deserve it, it's time to put up or shut up. No more DNFs. And I guess that puts tinfoil hats go on for all the fans that saw last weekend's race where Russell was just like, see you later, signs, I'm out of here. You know? But Max won this race last year. and will be looking to win again this year. He's aiming right now to break the record for the most race victories in one season. He's tied the record currently with 13. If he picks up another one, your boy Max goes into the record books again, which not surprising considering his craft this year, but you gotta kind of gotta root for him. I mean, it's not like he's done anything wrong or illegal. He's just been out racing everybody. So
yeah, agreed. I couldn't agree more. And the crazy thing is, like, I don't see how he doesn't win the next 3. Right
at this point, it's going to take an accident. Yeah, I mean, it's going to take an accident that knocks him out of the race to prevent him from winning it, I feel. Yeah.
Do you think, I've heard some rumblings about this, and I'll give you my opinion, but obviously Checo in Mexico, you think if they're 1-2, Max is in first? No fucking chance, right?
No, that's never going to happen. The thing is that was a narrative the last 2 years that we've gone into, or maybe not the last 2, however long Checo's been behind Max, which I think maybe is just 1 year. But the idea that he's going to, give up a 2-second delta to let Checo by, it's just not a thing that they're going to do. That it's a poor strategic move, because what if something goes wrong in that passing procedure, right? We've seen 2 Red Bulls run into each other before. So like, we just don't want to ever see that again. That's one of those ones, but no, I don't.
Yeah. People
I don't
say that. I'm like,
is true.
Max Verstappen.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that brings us close to the end here. If you have been keeping up with the F1 on the Rocks Grid Rivals League, then you might have noticed that we had some slackers this week. Brian raises his hand like a nervous kid in a classroom. Brian did not set his lineup, so he just kind of got left in the dust. Michael K 981, who was in second place and sniffing at first place, didn't set his lineup. Derp.
Oh,
so he dropped down to like 5th, I think. I mean,
hurts.
He's down at the bottom now. That put Mac 44 up into second place, 455 points behind our league leader Dre. So it's still any man's race. A couple of poor choices in these last 3, and we could see somebody winning the league here for Grid Rivals.
Yeah,
which could be kind of fun. But yeah, I didn't do any betting this week. I blew all my money on hockey and football bets and lost all of them. So that account is empty. Getting rid of all my bad luck, all my bad luck bets before I head off to Vegas. That's the plan here.
Yeah, that's right. Get all the bad ones out.
Yeah.
So that does it for the USGP review. We're going to see everybody next week. Same time, same place. We'll review the Mexican GP. And we've got a blog post coming up soon, so keep your eyes open for that. Do us a favor on your socials. Give us a share. Tell a friend, especially on Twitter. I live and die by our Twitter followers. So think of my mental health and follow us on Twitter.
Yeah. Help Brian's daily Twitter fatigue by sharing our account out at least once a day.
But thank you everybody for listening. We appreciate it. It has been a great time, Will, and I will see you next week, my man.
Later, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Later, Brian. On the Rocks. If you enjoyed today's show, subscribe now and watch for updates at f1ontherocks.com and on social at F1 on the Rocks.